Welcome to Reiki Banashi, a podcast where we talk about Reiki in a simple and approachable way. My name is Innina and I'm a practitioner and teacher, Shihan of Jikiden Reiki, traditional Japanese Reiki. And through this space, I share thoughts and reflections with you. Today, I have the great pleasure of welcoming Charly, a Reiki teacher with a rich and fascinating journey. Charly teaches in Paris region and in Perpignan in France. He has been practicing Reiki since 2012 and has explored several lineages along his path. In 2019, he translated into French Nathalie Jasper's book, Reiki as a Spiritual Practice, an illustrated guide. But that's not all. Charly is also the creator of the O Reiki Podcast, a podcast that I absolutely love. I still remember the very first episode I listened to. His thoughtful questions and the gentleness and kindness that come through his voice deeply moved me. It's actually one of the sources of inspiration that made me want to create Reiki Banashi. So it is truly a joy to welcome him today and to see him on the other side of the microphone. So make yourself comfortable and let's get started. Konnichiwa, yokoso. Hi Charly, and welcome to Reiki Banashi.
Hi Nina, and thank you for having me. It's so great and also so strange to be on the other side.
Isn't it?
Thank you for offering me this space. It's really lovely.
I'm really happy to have you with us today. O genki desu ka? How are you?
I'm good. The weather is nice. The holidays are coming. Everything's good.
Well, that's always nice to hear. Charly, you are one of those wonderful souls I first had the chance to meet on social media. Right, and the French-speaking community of Jikiden Reiki teachers is still very small, so I was really happy about our first exchanges. And then I discovered your podcast, O Reiki Podcast, which became one of my main inspiration to create Reiki Banashi. So thank you already for that. It feels a bit surreal to have you on the other side of the microphone, as they say. And then in October 2023, right?
Exactly, yes.
We met at an event you organized with Pascal Lemaire in Versailles. It was a Jikiden Reiki Reijukai.
Yeah, there were 20 of us. It was super nice. And it was a great opportunity to meet in person. So that was really lovely. And everything flowed as we had always known each other. So it was really great.
Exactly, a beautiful confirmation of our online exchanges.
Clearly, the magic of internet.
The magic of internet, really. And so you are also a Reiki teacher, Shihankaku in Jikiden Reiki. And you also do a lot of beautiful work around energy, healing, and...
Yeah, personal growth, actually.
Personal growth, yeah, exactly. So maybe to begin with, let's go back a little. Could you tell us about your journey in Reiki? How did you discover the practice? What drew you to it? And what led you to study several lineages? Because you did study several, right?
Absolutely. So let's go back to 2012. In 2012, it was in November, the month of my birthday. I decided to train in Reiki, but it didn't just happen like that. Since I was very young, I had an interest in various energy techniques, a bit of esotericism, self-work, and also magnetism. I wanted to heal in the energetic sense of the word. And I was looking for things. I was a lot on the internet and I started to see this word Reiki. appearing on forums. What is that? People were saying good things about it, that it allowed personal transformation, self-work, and that afterwards you were constantly connected to energy. And there was a kind of simplicity to it that I liked. So I looked online and I found out that there was a teacher, I was living in Perpignan, who lived less than 500 meters from my home. Yeah, so that's it, let's go. I signed up for her training, the first degree Reiki course. This teacher is Lydie Bonnet, whom I had the chance to interview and who's a friend. So I went there, and something I thought would be, sure, partly for me, but also like, oh, I'll try it on others, etc. I'll come back to those experiences later, but I quickly understood that it would be mainly for myself at the beginning, and that there would be a lot of work to do, listening to myself, cleansing, etc. And it was a beautiful discovery, a great introduction. It was a one-on-one training, so Lydie also knows a lot about energy work in several lineages and also has various paths in esotericism. She had a very broad vision, so we were able to start from where I was in my knowledge and combine things. So it was really great. Then I continued my path with Lydie until 2015, when I completed the last degree with her, Jikiden. So I received what's called the master practitioner and master teacher level in the Western lineage.
I see.
However, in 2015, well, about 3 years later, I told myself, no, I'm not ready to teach yet. I have the title in quotation marks, but I'm not ready. I still have a lot to do on myself. I was working with Reiki almost daily, and I thought, there's still a lot to do. And at the time, I was the founder of an online forum called Terra Energetica, which was very dynamic, especially about Reiki. I did a lot of research, I was interested. My goal was to understand Reiki, to understand the origins. I saw that on the internet this Western-style Reiki was blooming everywhere, and I thought, we're missing something. I need keys, I need to understand, I need to experience. And it was in 2017, I think, after moving to Paris, or the Paris region to live, that I met a teacher and reviewed Shoden with him. I met him because there was a spiritual, meditative dimension that I liked. I thought, this will give me keys to understanding maybe what's missing. And indeed, I went there for those keys, but actually I was still off track because I was looking for something external, mental, understanding. And in the end, what changed was the inside. And I truly discovered meditation, the Gokai, in a deeper way. And I discovered this gesture that I understood because we practiced it. We meditated on it. We were present. It was Gasho. And Gasho, which is this feeling, this gesture, this mudra of gratitude, but also this mudra of the inner temple of our own home. And I found myself after that workshop doing hour-long meditations for more than a month, where I was just in Gasho, just in presence.
Wow.
So beautiful. And I thought, now I finally have that spiritual part. The part where Reiki, which was a bit external to me. Yes, I was working on myself, but I thought, how do I bring it inside me? And then I was like, this is a much more enlightened, much more personal vision of Reiki. So that was lovely, and I thought, this is also the magic of reviewing, of meeting other teachers. And that's when I understood it's always through experiences that we understand.
Absolutely.
And so I had a much clearer vision of the system with a desire to discover authenticity. I thought, this is really great. I want to dig deeper and I want to go further. And then a year later, Pascale Lemaire, my teacher and friend, offered her first Shoden course in France. And I took it, and it was It was wonderful. I thought, I've discovered the authenticity I was looking for. With her, I learned. She also has an amazing journey in Reiki. She's been doing it for more than 20 years. She has a global vision of the systems, and I told myself, if she chose to focus exclusively on Jikiden Reiki, it's not for nothing. And when I discovered this lineage, it was fabulous because the authenticity, the keys to understanding I was looking for externally to understand the whole history of Reiki, what it was about, its meaning, were all there. But there was also this inner practice, and I thought, wow, that's it. The authenticity of the practice, the authenticity of the teachings and transmission. It's just beautiful. And when you understand the history, she told us about the story of Jikiden Reiki, this family lineage, Chiyoko Sensei, a mother giving Reiki to her children. And the highlight of the course was the Reiju, the spiritual blessing. And I say, oh, wow. I had received Reiju from several different lineages, but I thought, oh wow, this is so beautiful, so powerful, it's amazing. And that's how I continued with Pascal for the Okuden level. I reviewed it with her too. And then in 2022, I went to London to meet Rika Tanaka, who trained me at the Shihankaku level, first degree teacher. And that was fabulous too, because here was a Japanese woman passing on her knowledge, who was present, who was also devoted to Reiki. It was just beautiful. And reviewing, seeing things again from other perspectives, so great. And that's how through this authenticity I came to mainly teach Jikiden Reiki. It's a conscious choice because Jikiden Reiki, it's what we talked about in Versailles when we met. Yes, around 20 people, it's like a family. And that family aspect internationally, it's really beautiful, so amazing. We all speak the same language, we all have the same practice, we all share the same joy in practicing Reiki and meeting each other. We all know each other, and what I love is that authenticity, that family feeling, that simplicity. There's really nothing simpler. And finally, the energetic purity of this lineage. I feel that there's a different flavor, and that's my whole Reiki journey. How I ended up moving towards teaching and finally making the full choice of Jikiden.
Wow, merci pour ce partage et je trouve super intéressant. Wow, thank you for sharing all that. And I find it really interesting that you kept questioning and searching. You could have just stopped thinking, well, maybe it's not for me, maybe it's something else. But it's like something in Reiki touched you deeply and resonated with you, right?
Yes, it touches, it resonates, it leaves a mark. There were many moments where I thought, it's not. Yes, for me, that got that far, it had to stir something inside. So maybe I'll tell the most powerful experience I had.
Yes, I was just about to ask you if you had a particularly intense experience in your journey, whether on yourself or others.
Yeah, well, actually, it was on myself. When I said I trained with Lydie, it was a one-on-one course. And at the end of the first day, I stopped and said, listen, Lydie, I'm not feeling well. I feel a bit nauseous. I'm going to the bathroom. Then I told her, listen, I'm not well. I need to go home. Let's meet again tomorrow. I didn't go the next day because I had the worst night of my life. I spent the whole night throwing up, the entire night. My father, who didn't know about Reiki and hadn't been trained, said, but wait, what did they give you to eat? Did you take some herbs? Was it some kind of shamanism? No, not at all, not at all. And yes, I was pale, and honestly, it was terrible. And I thought, when she said it's for oneself and it's like a washing machine, you have to get the shadow out, everything that needs to come out. I was like, Oh, wow. And so it came out, and there was a clear message, I don't know from whom, saying, well, now you've got to work on yourself, and all that stuff you thought was external about helping others. First, you're going to work on yourself. So I couldn't go the next day. I returned 2 days later. I needed time to settle, to reintegrate that, and regain my strength because I really wasn't feeling well at all. So that was my entry into Reiki, and the most powerful experience because, yes, it was beautiful. I was connected to the energy, but at the same time, that energy was reminding me, well, you've got to do the work.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, it was. There was a kind of violence that triggered fears in me too. What I like is that one of my core fears is the fear of suffering and the fear of death. It's something I only recently resolved. So it shows that it takes time. But right away, it's as if I was reconnected to that. Like, here, you're capable of handling this. Well, now you'll have to deal with this fear and let it out. So during my first self-treatment, I thought, oh dear, if it's like this every time, if I have to throw up or cry, no. Let me reassure you, it's not like that at all. I'm the only one among all of Lidi's students who had these reactions. I've never had a student who had that kind of reaction during a training either. So all good, I reassure the listeners.
Yes.
And then I was kind of dragging my feet for the second degree because I was thinking, okay, that was physical. If emotionally it's going to be the same again, it's not going to work. In fact, my fears had made me work a lot on myself to bring calm, and eventually it passed. It passed quite easily. And then I've had other significant experiences, but when we say significant, what do we mean exactly? Is it something visual, something that seems amazing or wonderful? It's not that, because yes, you see, I'm very energetically sensitive, and I remember mental treatments too, where I was treating a specific situation and boom, my whole left side is completely blocked. I couldn't move it. And I thought, well, at the same time, it matches what I'm working on energetically. So I welcomed it. I told myself, I won't panic, I stay present, I keep going with the treatment, and it will unblock when it's the time. And about 20 minutes, all the energy was flowing again, and I felt I had resolved my issue.
That's impressive, when it...
Yeah, you see how the mind, the body, and also symbolically, the left side made perfect sense. Impressive, but again, it's just impressive. It's the energy doing its work, doing what it needs to do, and then everything's cool. And what's great about Reiki is that you learn to let go, whether you want to or not. Even if you say, oh no, I'm not letting go, well, yes, you are. Your body is already telling you everything's fine and that you're not in control. Reiki is wonderful. We're lazy in Reiki, expect nothing, don't try to mentally analyze or understand. It's just there, that's it. And the energy, your body does what it has to do. That's what's so great. So that's more the physical side, a bit impressive, but then among my meaningful experiences, I believe Reiki has allowed me to become much more aware of myself, of my body, of my mind. I'm always listening to myself, and I know how to act or ask for help when needed. Because yes, we're not saviors. We are at service to Reiki, but we can't always help ourselves. Sometimes we need to ask someone to support us. And that self-listening, that's really a change, a meaningful experience. I think I've prevented my inner pressure cooker from exploding many times, and that's really a beautiful gift. I'm thinking especially of something recent. I've been invited to a family event and I was angry because we had something to organize as a group and it wasn't going the way I wanted. The way I wanted and the way the people organizing the event also wanted. So I got angry and everything. And then I thought, okay, let's come back to our Gokai. Why am I angry? Where does this anger come from? And then I realized it was from me to me. that it wasn't that something was missing, but that I wasn't being authentic enough in how I was expressing what I wanted for myself, what I expected from others, or just telling them, well, this made me upset. Just being authentic and saying things. And then, does it cause me worry? I said, no, not worry, but then you see, connected to worry, there was projection. I told myself, I'm too afraid of disappointing the people organizing the event. And I thought, I'm projecting. And actually, when I'm giving and I'm authentic in what I do, then it's about others. It's not about me. And then, all my anger dissipated and all my apprehension faded. And that, you see, that's also a meaningful experience. And it's a very recent one. And I reconsidered. I thought, wow, thank goodness I have Reiki in my life. Thank goodness I integrate and work with the principles. It's amazing because we end up diffusing so many things inside ourselves and eventually around us too. And that's part of the meaningful experiences, being aware of the little things that happen thanks to Reiki.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, super lovely. So that's for me. And for others, in my guidance sessions or training, there have been physical releases that are incredible. And I think to myself, thank goodness I've experienced that too, and that I approach it very calmly. It's true that those who come say, but is something happening? It's all good, everything's fine. Yes, something's happening, but it's all fine. I remember a training, I had a student who at one point said, I need to let go. So she was lying on a massage table and several of us had our hands on her and she said, I need to let go, I'm going to scream. And in fact, she screamed. She screamed so loud that the owner of the place came downstairs. She said, what's going on? No, she just released something. And you could really feel the everything that was inside, and that was beautiful. There were tears too, etc. Often emotions. I really enjoy supporting people in releasing emotionally, removing the veils that they carry so they can discover more of their inner light. That's something I really love, yeah. And what deeply moved me was last year during a Jikiden Reiki training. I had two people, and already at the time of the first Reiju, I think even 15-20 minutes before, one person was already feeling all the effects of the Reiju. It's spinning, I feel light, etc. But at the same time, the sacred space is so present that things happen. So that was very beautiful. And what was even more beautiful was the second person who was with her. During the Reiju, she started to cry. And so at the end, once we finished, I asked her, but what happened? And she said to me, well, it's the first time I felt so much happiness, peace, fullness, and completeness. And I feel good, and it's the first time in a long time. And that, among the significant experiences, you see, I tell myself, wow, like, thank you, Reiki, thank you, life, thank you, Reiju. And I tell myself, well, that's what it means to be in service of Reiki. It's having these moments of joy, these moments when people illuminate themselves, and that's just wonderful.
It's beautiful. It really is a bit like peeling off layers, isn't it? From what you're expressing, always getting closer to one's true essence, right? It's really
one's true nature. So if I may, I'll take a little moment to do a bit of promo.
Sure, go ahead.
Le Reiki expliqué by Christelle Rosset. Actually, it's not Reiki explained, it's the Gokai that are explained. And it talks about her life experience, and there are a lot of meditations and tools to practice the Gokai in daily life. And in this book, I really liked the metaphor. You see, I was talking about veils, but she gives something much more visual. She talks about a lamp. So you have your light bulb and lampshades. She says, actually, we have a lot of lampshades. The light underneath always shines with the same intensity, but it's our lampshades that make us see less of the light. And little by little, as we remove them, we get closer to our true nature, which is pure light. And I find that image fabulous. You see,
a beautiful image.
The light, that's it, returning to who we truly are. And we are luminous and happy beings.
Exactly, that's it. And it brings me a bit to the next question. But I think you've already answered it a little through your experiences and your answers. But What does Reiki represent for you?
Reiki ne représente plus quelque chose.
Reiki no longer represents
Il est en
something.
moi et il est
It
une
is
partie
in
intégrante de
me,
moi.
and it is an integral
C'est
part
plus
of
quelque
me.
chose d'extérieur.
It's
Tu vois, c'est
no
ce que je te
longer
disais tout à
something
l'heure.
external, you see.
Je l'ai
It's what I
intégré,
was telling you
j'évolue, je
earlier.
grandis
I've
avec. C'est
integrated
plus
it. I
une
evolve, I
béquille ou
grow
une
with it,
clé, tu vois. C'est
but
plus un
it's no
outil extérieur, c'est
longer
vraiment
a
quelque chose
crutch, a key, you
d'intérieur. Alors
see.
certes,
It's
quand
no
on parle
longer
Reiki, on
an
parle de
external
l'énergie.
tool.
Donc je parlerai
It's
plutôt
really something
du nom de la méthode,
internal.
qui
So,
est
of course,
Shinkai
when we
Usui
talk about
Ryo, et
Reiki, we
donc j'ai
talk about energy.
intégré
So,
cette
I would
méthode-là
rather
pour
use the
justement
name of the
améliorer
method, which is Shinshin Kaizen Usui Reiki
mon cœur,
Ryoho.
ouais, et puis
And
mon
so I've
corps. Et
integrated that
ce
method
qui m'a permis de
precisely
me
to improve my heart,
découvrir, tu vois,
and my
enfin,
body.
bref,
And that has allowed me to
on imagine bien
uncover myself,
les
to
arbres
discover,
qui
you
s'en
see,
vont, les boulets que je
everything.
traîne
We
qui
were
s'en vont
talking
pour faire
about, we
venir la
come back to it,
lumière.
the shadow parts that go
Cette
away,
écoute qui
the
est
weights
active.
I've been
En fait,
dragging that
je
fall
suis devenu
away, to
conscient de
let the
moi.
light
Et c'est
come
ça que
in.
j'aime.
This
C'est
listening that is
euh,
active. And
prendre
I've
conscience pour
become
aller
actually
bien.
conscious of
Et
myself, and
finalement,
that's what I love. It's becoming
enfin, pour prolonger
aware
cette
in
image de
order
c'est
to
plus
feel
extérieur à
well.
moi, c'est en moi.
And
Reiki, c'est plus
ultimately,
pour
Reiki, to
avoir,
extend
c'est-à-dire
the image
avoir
of
un corps
it's
peut
no longer
avoir un mental,
outside of
c'est pour
me, it's
être.
within me.
Tu vois, et
Reiki is
cette
no longer
transition-là,
about
et donc,
having, as in having a body, having
voilà,
a
ça
mind. No,
représente
it's
pas
about
quelque chose, c'est
being.
intégré.
Yeah, that's
Et
it.
You
effectivement,
see, it's that
ça, si on devait
transition.
donner
So
des mots,
there
ce
you
serait
have it. It doesn't represent something. It's
je sais
integrated.
pas s'il y a le mot, c'est
If we had to
compliqué, mais
give
ce
it
serait le
words,
chemin
it
d'une
would
vie,
be
le parcours,
the
enfin une
I
voie
don't
en tout cas,
even
il y
know
a beaucoup de
if
choses
there are
avec
words.
le
It's
terme de voie, mais en tout
complicated,
cas voie intégrée.
but it would be the
Et
path of a life,
Reiki,
the
c'est,
journey, at least a way. There's something in
j'ai
the
pas trouvé
word
de mots,
way, but in any
parce qu'il y a
case,
les mots
an
affronter, se
integrated way.
confronter, mais une
And
dimension
Reiki
de combat
is,
qui ne
I
sont
haven't
pas
found the
celles-ci,
right
tu
words, you
vois,
see,
les
because
difficultés
there are
ou les
words
moments
like
de la vie.
facing, confronting, but there's a
Peut-être
dimension of
juste, je
struggle
sais
that
pas,
doesn't fit
affronter
here.
justement si on est
The
plus sur le terme
difficulties
Reiki,
of the
c'est
moments of
observer
life, maybe
les
just
événements de la
if
vie.
it's not about
C'est Masami
facing them,
Okamoto dans
if we're
son
rather in the
livre,
spirit of Reiki,
dans
it's
son,
about
j'ai oublié le titre pour le
observing the
moment,
events of life.
qui explique qu'elle,
It's
elle ne parle pas
Masami
de problème,
Okamoto in
elle
her
parle
book,
d'événements.
the
Un
title of
événement,
which
ça
I've
passe,
forgotten at
c'est
the moment,
clairement
who
lié au
explains
local.
that she doesn't speak about problems in
Moi,
life,
j'aime
she
bien ça, de
speaks
dire, bah,
about
en fait, j'observe
events.
les
Because
événements avec
an
plus de
event
sérénité,
passes and it's
simplicité.
clearly linked to
T'as
the
une écoute de
Gokai.
toi, donc tu
And
peux
well,
prendre
I
soin de
like
toi.
that,
Et
saying actually you
ouais,
observe events with more
voilà, c'est
serenity,
apprendre
more
à s'aimer, à
simplicity.
s'écouter. Ça,
You
c'est
listen to yourself so you can
une
take care
belle
of
méthode
yourself.
pour ça qui
And
est
yeah,
complètement
it's
s'est
about
intégrée.
learning to love
Et en
yourself,
lien
to
avec ça,
listen to
moi,
yourself.
je
And this
me
is a
souviens,
beautiful method for
la
that.
question, la première fois
One
que j'ai
that then
rencontré
becomes fully
Pascal
integrated and
Lemaire,
connected to it. I remember the
Reiki
question the first time I met
c'est
Pascal
quoi?
Lemaire.
Et
She asked me,
je suis encore
what
d'accord
is
avec ça,
Reiki
c'est
for you?
Gacho.
And I still
C'est
agree
notre
with what
union,
I
c'est notre
said back then.
verticalité
It's
intérieure,
gasho.
c'est
It's our
ce
union,
remerciement,
our
cette
inner
gratitude pour
verticality,
soi,
this
pour les autres, pour
gesture
la
of
vie, pour
gratitude
l'univers.
for
Et je pense que
ourselves,
c'est ça,
for
Reiki, tu vois,
others,
si
for
je devais dire
life,
ça représente
for the
quoi,
universe.
ça
And I
reste
think that's
ça.
what
On
Reiki is, you
le fait
see.
très souvent.
If I had to
Gacho, et
define
dans
it,
un
what
second
does it
temps, les séries à
represent?
Gacho, c'est
Well,
les
it's
Gokai,
this
parce que le Gokai,
gesture
c'est quoi?
that we
C'est une
do,
verticalité
that we do
intérieure, c'est
so
le fait
often,
de
gasho. And
plus
secondly,
être
but it's connected to gasho, it's the
mouvementé à
Gokai,
l'intérieur,
because
c'est de revenir vers ce
Gokai
centre,
is
cet
our inner
équilibre, et
verticality.
d'être
It's about
pouvoir
no
remercier la
longer
vie,
being
c'est ça.
shaken internally. It's about returning to that center, to that balance, and being like, wow, thank you, life.
That's it. Yeah, beautiful. I also find it really interesting that you talked about separation, you know. At first, it's really something external, but then rather than adding, searching for external additions, it's more of a return to oneself and being in presence, simply in the presence of the moment.
Yeah, it's a lifelong practice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's never finished, which is also what makes it so interesting. Beautiful, really. The idea of gasho to represent Reiki. Thank you for that. And so I'll move on to the next question. You mentioned that you teach Jikiden Reiki, traditional Japanese Reiki, but also still Western style Reiki. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, so how do you navigate between these two
Eh
practices?
bien, comme je peux, mon capitaine.
Well, as best as I can, Captain. I'm taking notes because you sent me the question in advance, and it's the most complicated one.
D'abord,
First, it's complicated because what is Western Reiki? What is traditional Reiki? That alone could be a whole podcast.
Oh yeah, you could come back so we could talk about it.
Yeah, but it's such a vast topic.
Yeah, it really is.
So I created my association at the end of 2019. In 2020, I held my first non-Jikiden workshop. I wasn't a Shihankaku yet, and I felt the urge to teach. I told myself, all right, I have the keys, I have the understanding, I've worked on myself, let's go. And in what I was teaching, I called it traditional Reiki because it was stripped of additional symbols. We went back to the origins, to truly understanding the symbols. There were no unnecessary addition, all of that. And then when I decided to fully teach Jikiden Reiki in 2022, I thought, how am I going to communicate this? Because what I was saying, and I still think this, is that what I called traditional Reiki, but then we put whatever meaning we want behind it, well, that would mean that now there's a Reiki that's more traditional than another, you see. So that was my dilemma.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually I taught you a traditional Reiki, but now it's no longer traditional. No. So what I said is that here we have a true school with a very fixed teaching, and it's the teaching of Hayashi, just as it was in the 1930s, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
And so Jikiden Reiki is Reiki transmitted exactly as it was taught in Japan. And so I told myself that. And then in the end, the other one remains traditional because there is still a certain purity. So you see, even the question itself was making me wonder, well, yes, we can say Western Reiki to distinguish, but in my teaching it was, well, I've thought about it a lot, and I still think that Western Reiki, traditional Reiki, it doesn't really mean anything anymore because some call it traditional, some call it Western, and then within Western Reiki there's Takata style or Usui Shikiryoho, and then you realize, well, there are still deviations, etc. So we don't really know where we can stand anymore.
Indeed, yes, it's quite vast.
Yes, definitely. And I told myself, Jikiden Reiki, that's narrowing it down.
Yeah.
That's all it is, and that's why starting in 2022, I chose to train only in Jikiden Reiki. However, I do have students who started their Reiki journey, and I have always told them I would support them until the end. So it's important to me not to leave them stranded and say, well, now you're on your own, or to force them and say, follow me. It's not Reiki. That's not the right attitude for me. And so I juggle between both. I am closing out certain path in one lineage, but it's a bit complicated because when you become a Jikiden Reiki teacher, you gain insights into other lineages, and sometimes you have to find a balance saying, okay, how do I position myself regarding this?
Absolutely.
So it requires positioning, alignment, and a clear vision, and I try to have that clarity for myself, to tell myself, well, I pass on what was transmitted to me, I provide insights from that time, which are not from Jikiden, since we are not allowed to mix everything, but in any case, that's it. I tell myself, okay, I set aside my Jikiden label, I keep it for myself, I know why I no longer teach it, but I accompany them until the end.
Absolutely.
Maybe at some point my students who go all the way will discover Jikiden, will train as Shihankaku, maybe even as a Shihan, and we'll see. But indeed, regarding knowledge, you say, now I understand why there was resistance and why I ultimately chose only Jikiden. I think it's kind of the same with you too.
Absolutely, yes. There are confirmations.
Exactly. And then to support both former and new students, students. I organize Reiki workshop every month. In the morning, it's mostly dedicated to Jikiden Reiki students, only among themselves. And in the afternoons, it's open to everyone. We practice, however, we don't mix. It's just about discovering the simplicity of Reiki. That is, regardless of the lineage, etc., what matter is the hands. And what Jikiden Reiki students might gain in part is that we do quite a bit of meditation, which is not necessarily included in Jikiden. We take the time to explore the Gokai, so actually we don't stray from a specific path. But I make it clearer, when it's Jikiden, it's Jikiden. When it's something else, it's something else. And there are well-defined times for each.
Yeah, great. Yes, I imagine there is really a need to be centered on when exactly, okay, now we are in Jikiden, and to give that clarity, because it's true that if things get mixed up, maybe in terms of learning, it can be a bit, how to put it?
Yeah, confusing. That's why when I'm with my Jikiden Reiki students, it's only Jikiden, and with others, it's only the other approach. We don't mix. We need clarity. And for me, that clarity took a long time, between 2012 and 2018, to fully see all of this. And then until 2022, when I became Shihankaku, well, actually, 10 years, 2012 to 2022.
Ah, yes.
10 years to gain clarity, and now I have this vision where I tell myself, I know what Western Reiki is, what we call traditional Western Reiki and Jikiden Reiki. I compartmentalize, and that's it. And sometimes for those who are new, for example, I think about those who are starting Jikiden Reiki, one of the first pieces of advice I can give them is don't go on the internet, because it's a completely different type of Reiki. It's a completely different tradition.
Yeah.
And that's why it has never been widely spread, never modified, never changed. It's very structured, very Japanese. And that's also what I like about it, meaning we won't have all kinds of different interpretations. We stick to a tradition in the transmission of teaching and energy.
Exactly. Well, speaking of online searches, if someone wanted to start their Reiki journey, what advice would you give them? And what, in your opinion, are the pitfalls to avoid? You already touched on this a little, but are there any specific traps?
Well, it depends. If it's before their first training, the first piece of advice is follow your impulse and go for it. But what I ask of those who wanted to attend a training or workshop is to first come and receive a session at the association for a little while to discover what Reiki actually is, because it is something engaging, something that can stir emotion, something beautiful as well. But they should first take the time to experience this energy, also to discover the association itself. It allows them to see what the community spirit is like, to meet other people, to see if this setup suits them or not. They get a feel for the atmosphere, and in the end, when they commit, they know exactly what they're committing to. And that's something I really like. So, coming to receive a session, discovering what we offer. If they choose to commit to Jikiden Reiki, it also means being aware of the rules of non-disclosure. Some people might feel frustrated that they can't talk about it with other practitioners, because there's that sacred aspect to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be aware of everything that it entails. And then some people say to me, oh yes, I would like to read. I find that complicated. And if someone really wants to, I tell them either listen to my podcast or yours, in any case to see inspiring life journeys, or indeed to read but rather testimonies about Reiki. You see, I had interviewed Christelle Bernard, what Reiki changed in my life. That is inspiring. Also, Masami Okamoto's book about Reiki, about her journey. Plus, she's a Japanese woman who lives in Paris, who first discovered Western Reiki and then later returned to the tradition. There are so many things because there are life paths that can browse through. That's very rich in philosophy, inspiring, that's it. But there isn't all that technical aspect. Then maybe one of the pitfalls is that when we read these stories, there are experiences that happen to certain people, and what happens to them is not necessarily what will happen to us.
Yeah, that's right.
We also need to be careful, expect nothing, hope for nothing. It reminds me of Christelle Bernard when she first got into Reiki. She received a Reiki session. She says nothing happened. But right, after that, she had the urge to train. So the nothing happened, you see.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that's her whole life. So just go into it without expectations, without anything, just try it. And then once you have been trained, once you are a Reiki baby, it would be, if you are in Jikiden, to really let go of the internet. Even if you are not Jikiden, actually.
Yeah.
But to connect with yourself. What matters is our hands, our meditation, coming back to our center, and it's about practicing Gasho, practicing the Gokai, learning to discover your body, to feel better, and maybe for Reiki babies, but also for non-babies, it's about exchanging, attending practice workshops. That's amazing when teachers offer them. I know that in Jikiden we do this a lot, being part of this community that you can go to whenever you want. One advantage of Jikiden Reiki also is that you can visit whomever you want. We all have the same teaching. So we can go see other teachers, attend other Reijukai. It's really great. And to go, yes, to exchange experiences with others, to meet, and we are in a caring community. Changes happen. You talk more easily, you dare, you try things, and that's where you grow. And you see where you are in your journey, it gives you a little moments of pause. You climb the mountain, you look back, wow, I've done all that. And then he is there, and at some point I will be there too. And then, wow, it's just really great, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that practicing together, even if there are different paths, in the moment of practice, you don't really feel that difference in the path.
No, we are all in humility.
Humility, absolutely.
When we practice together, what's great is that we see this simplicity, this authenticity. We place our hands, we have this aspect of truly letting go. Egos fade away. We are just there in the present moment, and everything happens naturally. And that's what's wonderful. And also in these sharing groups where you talk, exchange, you see your own Reiki journey, and that helps you let go. It helps overcome that imposter syndrome that many Reiki practitioners and students have. It also helps to work on oneself, to build confidence, and then to blossom, to transform. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's like there's a balance that forms during these practices together, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very naturally too.
Yes, this natural moment of balance. And at the same time, you are in a kind of timeless space each time. That is, you don't see the time passing because you are so present that time no longer exists. And in your own balance, you know that you are exactly where you need to be and that you are well where you are. And that's really nice, yeah.
And it's magical, it's very pleasant, yeah. It's really great advice to keep practicing. In fact, I think a common pitfall when taking a course or training is getting all this information, all these amazing abilities, but not putting them into practice and then losing them a little. So really having, the opportunity.
Yes, it's an exercise of, exercise still sounds external to oneself, but in any case, there is something about the practice. It's true that in Jikiden, we don't have those famous 21 days, but we say practice, 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 because you have to integrate it so that it becomes automatic. You see, it's what I was telling you, the representation, the external versus the internal, once it's integrated. But it's so much a part of you that everything becomes natural. And for it to become natural, well, you have to work on it. It takes time, but it's a time that it's very, very beneficial.
Absolutely. So I still have two little questions for you. The first one is, well, you are the creator of the O Reiki podcast, and I wanted to ask you what inspired you to create this amazing podcast?
Well, it's not what inspired me, it's who inspired me.
Oh, interesting.
And Nathalie Jaspar, who is a teacher in the United States, we also met through social media. I had translated her illustrated guide to Reiki, and she had launched her podcast series in English. And I loved it. It was amazing. And I often complain because in France, actually, we have very few Reiki translations. Very few books by major authors get translated. Very few truly interesting publications that brings real change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I thought, why don't we have this in France either? And I thought, well, let's go. I'll jump in and start doing interviews with different people. Now I'm not as consistent as you are.
For now, I'm consistent. We'll see how it evolves.
Because it's like, you see, being in an associative structure, I teach from the heart. And you see, I don't have that mindset of this has to serve me, I have to make a living from Reiki. So I always follow my impulses. And that podcast is the same. I didn't put pressure on myself. I just think, well, I'll follow my heart's calling. And when I feel like it, when I have the time, sometimes I want to, but time is short. It's really about meeting different people, also untying the Reiki community, and ultimately, no matter the lineage, no matter who we are, what matter is what has Reiki changed in me, what can Reiki change in others, and then seeing the path, everyone's life journeys. And with every podcast, I think you mentioned it in your last live with Reiko, every podcast, even as an interviewer, you learn something. It's amazing. And these are truly beautiful moments, soul to soul. And so my goal was to develop something in France so that we too could give a voice to different people and also to open up new paths. Yeah. That was my desire, to spread awareness of Reiki in a serious and more in-depth way, to allow it to enrich life paths, to inspire people to say, oh, that journey is really cool, I want to explore it further. And in the end, people who listen to the podcast say, oh, that inspired me. Afterwards, I went to dig deeper into this or that topic. And that's wonderful, you see? If I take your podcast, which I listen to every week, for example, I love the one with Reiko, where she shared all those little Japanese words. Oh, wow, that really made me want to learn more. Arigato. I had never questioned what it really meant before, and I thought, wow, that's so great. Your podcast with Amanda too, Amanda Jane. Wow, her life journey. It made me want to reopen and explore Women in Reiki again, the book.
Yeah, the book.
And you see, it remotivates you, it gives you impulses, and then, oh, this happened, and you think, oh, I want to try that too. And yeah, it's these heart-driven impulses, these energetic impulses that make you want to take action. And that's what I wanted to create.
An impulse that touched my heart so deeply that it also allowed me to, well, it really inspired me because indeed, as you said, in French and also in Italian, there are very, very few well-known authors whose books are translated. And of course, translating books is another challenge, but meeting through a podcast, I find it much more accessible and perhaps even a little more human in its format.
Yeah, I agree.
And that it went straight to my heart, and really thank you for creating O Reiki Podcast, because it is truly something fabulous where we can also feel your kindness in the questions, and there is one can really feel this intention to unite actually and to expand Reiki in a kind way. And really thank you for that. Thank you. It's very inspiring for me. because I had an image of podcasts, not necessarily those about Reiki, that was a bit more focused on promotion, a bit more marketing oriented, and seeing these truly human exchanges made me think, oh, but that is actually possible to do this.
Yeah, just a conversation. You see, I realize that time is passing and so on.
Oh, yes, that's true.
We've already been chatting for almost an hour, and I think it's wonderful because it's so natural. We talk about what we love. It couldn't be simpler.
That's it, and I think it can be felt when we are passionate about something. We can feel it through our voices, through our words, through the vibration. Super, thank you. So my last question for you, the question I ask all guests on Reiki Banashi. If you could meet Mikao Usui Sensei today, what would you ask or tell him, or both?
Well, it would be both. First, a big thank you. Yeah, a great kansha for the wonderful gift he has given us, that he has passed down to us. We don't need to go and fast for 21 days on a mountain and wait for enlightenment. He has transmitted to us this natural ability to awaken, to reconnect with ourselves, to connect with the energy, and that, yes, a huge thank you. And thank you to him for having changed so many lives. That's what I would tell him. And what I would ask him. So he spread Reiki before World War II. Today we are in a society that is quite tense, quite problematic, where there are fears, anxieties, wars. How would he go about spreading more peace and love in the world today? That's what I would ask him.
Beautiful question, yeah.
Yeah, and we would love to have the answer.
And we would really love to have the answer.
And yeah, I think he would have so much wisdom to help us do all this. So I think that each of us, with our own two hands, remains at the service of Reiki, spreading it little by little. But how could we do it on a larger scale so that peace can reign more widely?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And it would be so fascinating to know how he would answer. There's a part of me that feels like even at our small scale, when we impact those around us, even if we help just one or two people, there's a ripple effect that is created, and I have no idea what he would say, but that is what resonates within me right now.
I totally agree with you. That's exactly it. And we just have to keep spreading it, keep doing what we do, and then we'll see.
Exactly.
Kyo da kewa.
Yeah, we'll see exactly. In any case, Charly, thank you so much again for this wonderful moment of sharing together. I'm really happy that we dared to talk to each other on social media back then. And whether it's online or when we met in Versailles or now, every time it confirms the feeling I have in our exchanges. This gentleness, kindness, presence.
Yeah, same here. You see, from the digital world to reality, strong bonds are being woven, bonds that are very touching, very powerful. And the fact that we met was really wonderful. And yes, it's true that we exchange messages regularly. And what you mentioned with Reiko as well, I think it really is like a family coming together, and even more so within the French-speaking community, because it's quite small.
Small, exactly, yeah. In any case, it's a vibration that you emanate. This beautiful energy that every time I hear your podcast, these beautiful frequencies go straight to my heart, and that inspires us to pass it on. So thank you, Charly, for your work and for all the love that you put in what you do. And so, arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you.
Arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. And thank you again to Charly. It's a joy to share these moments with you. If you'd like to learn more about him, you can visit his website www.oreiki.fr, and you can find his amazing podcast in French, O Reiki Podcast, which is simply spelled O space Reiki, on all listening platforms. You can also find him on Instagram, oreiki_78. And if you'd like to continue exploring these topics with me, you can also find me on Instagram or on my website. So if you want to go further and dive deeper, all the links are in the show notes. See you soon for the next episode, and in the meantime, take care. ありがとうございました。